One of the fastest ways to increase your return on ad spend is focusing on your page speed optimization, but it's often the most overlooked thing that is within your stack when you're selling something online. And the other part of this is that there's all these tools out there that say that you just plug them in and they optimize your site automatically, but in reality, it's just a farce. What they're doing is they're basically gaming the page speed, load times within the tools that you use to measure this, rather than actually changing the page so that it loads quicker on a mobile device that's on a slow connection. I'm Cody Schneider. I have 15 plus years of digital marketing experience. And in this video, we're talking through page speed optimization and why it should be a priority for your business. To explore this idea, I'm hosting my friend Lukas, who's a page speed optimization expert at his agency called the Nice Agency. This is literally all that they do all day long. And you're going to learn why page speed optimization increases your ROAS almost overnight. It's the best investment that you can make. It just makes the system that you're running currently way more efficient than it already is, both from an SEO perspective and a paid ads perspective. He's going to talk about all the snake oil that's in this market. There's tons of people promising results, but are actually making no changes to the actual page speed load time of the site that they're working on. And he's going to share the application stack that he's found to be the fastest for e-commerce companies that he's been working with. And this episode is brought to you by landingcat.com. Landingcat is an SEO and CRO software for e-commerce companies. It helps e-commerce companies publish 10,000 plus pages related to their product catalog and can do both collection pages and blog post pages. There's a conversion pixel that functions just like the Klaviyo or the Facebook ads pixel to understand the attribution data. It basically transforms SEO into a performance channel for e-commerce brands. Go to landingcat.com to learn more or click the link in the description. Let's get started with today's show. Lukas, what's up, man?
How are you doing?
So stoked to have you here.
Yeah, always
How you
fun.
doing? How's your week been
good.
so far?
It's good. Just chilling with Gatsby.
Oh yeah,
Hello.
I always love when a dog makes an appearance, man.
This is Gatsby, the Woodle mascot for the Nice Agency. We just jumping up on my lap today, but calm down, buddy. But yeah, having a great week so far. Lots of moving parts. It's been a wilder week, but
I know you guys have been growing like crazy, so let's just dive right into it. So
yeah.
you run a e-commerce site speed optimization agency. Kind of for context for the audience, what's the main thing that you guys do? Just maybe 3 bullet points, and then from there, I'm curious to see what you're seeing be the most effective for the brands that you're working with, kind of from the front line so far.
Yeah. So I started the Nice Agency. We're a Shopify-specific site speed optimization agency. Started about 18 months ago. I actually came from the e-com background. I started a rather successful click and mortar. So we have a physical retail location, built up to a second one, and had, of course, a strong online presence. We paid 6 figures to get a site rebuilt from this, sexy web dev company or like a design company. And I already knew performance was important. I'd been building Shopify stores since 2015. And after the site went live, I was just curious, ran the site speed tests, and it was 3 times slower than it was before. And I asked them to do a quick optimization for me, not knowing what it took at that time. And they kind of laughed and said, well, Lukas, that's not quick. That's another 5-week project, and it'll cost you 20-something thousand US to get done. And I was like, sorry, we just paid you 120 grand to build our site. What are you talking about? And so I went to the market to try and find a, not crazy cheap alternative like Fiverr and Upwork, because I knew they were kind of sketchy, didn't know at all about what they do, which we can talk about, but I knew they weren't amazing. And I tried to find something in the middle of the market that was fairly priced, but still did high quality web optimization for Shopify. And I couldn't really find a suitable solution. So I created it, and we've just been off to the races ever since. But the kind of claim to fame came from, I was inspired by CoffeeZilla, if you know the guy on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the crypto space and all of that stuff. And I'd been watching a lot of his content, and I knew there was a lot of grifting and scammery that happened in the site speed space. And so I thought, okay, well, there's no one talking about this stuff, so I'm just going to start creating content showing what you need to avoid and what's happening. And the vast majority of site speed optimizers in the Shopify space in particular, just taking advantage of non-technical founders and just basically screwing their sites up, faking site speed scores and taking their money while actually just doing all pure harm to their site, injecting malicious code that fakes site speed scores. And so I put some videos out. Some of them went super viral, particularly this company called Nostra that we found doing some pretty sketchy stuff. That was a pretty large venture-backed US-based company, and that video went pretty damn viral. I still get asked about it 10 times a week, a year and a half later or so, a year later. And it's just been madness ever since. But to answer your question as that, short braggy intro or whatever, the top three issues we see, definitely just poor development work is number one, if not tied for number one, with just a terribly bloated app stack, right? As a company grows, there's more people that are in the company that mean well. They don't understand the technical implications of, from a load perspective, from a user experience perspective, of downloading 10 new apps to try stuff out. They'll add a bunch of apps. They forget about it. The company continues to grow. More people come in, or the same person comes in, adds more apps. And then by the time we come in, we'll do the first thing we do when we sign up a client and we start working together is we'll do an app audit where we'll go into the store, we'll list every app, and then we'll have just, with no context from us, just ones that you're using, keep or remove. And no joke, many times we've had, say they have 40 apps installed on their store, they'll click 15 as remove. And the notes will just be like, not using this, don't even know what this is, not paying for it, or oops, we're still paying for this. We've been paying for it for 6 months and we haven't used it once. So immediately we'll remove 15 apps and say their largest contentful paint, their LCP, their main visual asset, let's just say on the homepage, their hero image is taking 21 seconds to show up. We remove those apps and it's immediately down 20, 30% before we even start any code work. So bloated apps and there's a lot of apps in the Shopify app space that are not built for performance. I think to anyone non-technical reading this or listening to this rather, the best way to put it is, there's developing any feature or a page or anything on a site, developing it versus developing it through the lens of web performance, two completely different things. And the best way I've been able to kind of frame this in a non-technical perspective is like, you and I speak English, right? We're fluent in English. We understand English perfectly, right? We can probably rap some fast rap songs. We can do it. We understand English clearly. But at least for me, I don't know about you, if you asked me to write like a compelling poem that would bring you to tears, or write a screenplay that could like get a nomination at a, some sort of award show, or a beautiful haiku or a song that could chart, I probably wouldn't be able to do it because I don't understand how to utilize my language in that context, right? And that's kind of the same thing with standard developers who just come in and build feature or build site, build page, versus web performance trained Shopify specialists who come in and create the exact same features, but through the lens of high performance. It's a completely different utilization.
Focusing on that lightweightness, et cetera. Like, hey, we need the functionality. It's almost finding that cross section of where's the functionality that we need, but also like how fast can we make it, because we know that this is going to pop.
Exactly.
Slower the load. I mean, you told me this forever ago, but it was like, if we can increase site load speed by, I think you said it was like 2 seconds, like we can increase their CTR by like 1% or something insane. Is there an actual number that you guys lean on?
There is. So I implore everybody, the beautiful thing about site speed in particular is that there's a lot of data over it, right? Google has known forever that it's super important. Facebook factors it into their algorithm for, giving you preferential feeding of ads and CPM reductions. One of their many things they have in their algorithm, of course, but a faster, smoother site with smoother fasting loading assets, quicker loading images makes for a better user experience. And that's what Google, Facebook, Meta, all platforms want to provide to anybody who clicks on their ad platform. If they're going to a site that takes 20 seconds to load under a 2-bar 4G connection, you better believe that you're not going to get as much organic reach. And so the implications are there clearly, but also the data's there clearly. And the best part is the data's there clearly, not from like people like me who are biased to try and sell this service to you. It's Google and Deloitte teamed up, and I implore you guys to Google, search Milliseconds Make Millions. Deloitte and
We'll
Google.
include it in the show notes as well, just as a resource. So
Milliseconds Make Millions is just this like deeply in-depth, millions of data point research that Google and Deloitte did together. The biggest conglomerator of online data versus in user data, in e-commerce interaction data is Google, and Deloitte, maybe the best, firm for parsing through data and creating reports that exists. I don't know, up there, top 3 kind of thing. And so they teamed up and made this report, and the results of a faster site is a black box. We've seen clients, that we make their site 50% faster and we see a 3-4% conversion rate increase. We've seen clients that we make the site just as fast and we see a 17% conversion rate increase. There is no...
So it's probably industry specific, I'm assuming, like...
One correlation I see consistently is the bigger the delta is from where we started to where we end up, normally the larger of a conversion rate bump I see, which makes total sense, right? I think it's really important too for people, right? Anybody who's ever run a site speed test on PageSpeed Insights or, Google's pagespeed.web.dev or GTmetrix, Pingdom, webpagetest.org, which by the way, quick pro tip, if you want to run site speed tests on your site, use webpagetest.org. We'll include it in the show notes. It's the gold standard. It's the best for many reasons I won't get into, but use webpagetest.org. Shout out Catchpoint. And all of those tests, right? You'll see, like, if you go on your laptop or on your phone on a fast connection, you load your site up, it's probably going to load within like 2 or 3 seconds. Things will interact with quite quickly, particularly at home on your laptop or at home on your new iPhone on a fast 100 meg plus download speed, connection speed. You'll have a fast interaction. That's not where the leaky bucket is for loss in conversion rate, average order value, lifetime value, increased bounce rates, increased abandoned cart rates in relation to site speed. The leaky bucket is the multivariate situations where people are viewing your site not on Wi-Fi or on a very stressed Wi-Fi connection with a poor connection. So think about like in a city surrounded by towers, in a heavy concrete building like a mall or a theater or a school class, in your friend's basement, not on their Wi-Fi because you didn't want to bother to ask for the password because it's still the same one from the modem and it's complex and annoying. On the highway, in between cell towers, in the back of the car, browsing and clicking on ads, right? Like there's so many different situations where the consumer's desire to purchase is no less. They don't care about their connection speed. Their desire to purchase doesn't go up and down with what their connection speed is. They want to consume and purchase products and click on sites and click on ads just as bad, regardless of what their connection speed is. But that's why those tests you see will show a number where you're like, my site takes 2 seconds to load on my computer. Why is it saying 22 seconds for the homepage image to show up? It's because they emulate around a 2-bar 4G connection, which ends up, they equate to 9 megabits per second download speed. And you can test this yourself next time if you have a site. If you're look at your phone and you see you got 1 or 2 bars of 4G, let alone 3G, oh my God, it's going to be a nightmare. Turn off your Wi-Fi, go incognito, load your site, go to fast.com and see what your connection speed is. If it's anywhere near 9 megabits per second, you'll see clearly that the results you see from these tests, and then it becomes quite real quite quickly. And then you start to think like, shit, if I have 100,000 monthly page visitors and even 5% of those people are viewing from anywhere near a 2-bar 4G connection, which I think is a conservative but realistic estimation, that's 5,000 monthly site visits a month that are taking 20, 25, 15, whatever, 10 even is unacceptable seconds for just your homepage to load. And then they click over to the PDP, which almost always has even more apps on it because you want upsells and recommendations and custom carts, more features, maybe videos. The PDPs are almost always slower. So it's like if your homepage is 10, your PDP is going to be 15 or 20. If your homepage is 20, we've seen PDPs take like sometimes the test time out and they're just like, sorry, it just took too long.
I got to interject here. This feels like such an easy win for people that are spending like a ton of money on paid ads. Like if that is your main channel, this feels like a no-brainer where it's like, hey, your budget stays the same. You do a project like this. So we increase, page speed or whatever down to 3 seconds. We see an uptick in CT, in your conversion rate, and you're spending the exact same money, but it's now like I'm curious, like the value that you're seeing people. So say they come in, they do, I don't know what your projects start at, but I'm guessing in the 20K range. Say they come in.
No. So that's what I wanted to avoid, right? Like the most expensive project we've ever done, which was a very large company with 20 integrated crazy third-party apps that aren't even connected to Shopify and the most insane stuff added to their site. It was around the 25K range, and that's like as insane as it gets. And that was an outlier. That was like top of the chart away from the mean average, the median, whatever. Our optimizations for smaller brands start at $3 or $4 grand for a spot optimization and normally range from around 4 or 5 to 7 or 8 grand. And they take 10 days to 4 or 5 weeks, depending on complexity. They're completely bespoke, right? There is no templated process for optimizing a Shopify site. Every single site has a unique set of issues. A lot of them rhyme, but they're all completely different, right? It's we have to go in, we do a custom audit for every single client site. We have a prescriptive list once we have collaborator access that says, these are the main issues that we see. Here's our prescription to fix them. Here's our timeline. Here's our budget. What do you think? And normally we'll actually offer two options too. Say like, if you don't want to spend as much, here's what we call a spot optimization, where we'll just fix as much as we can on the live theme. But if it's a client that has a 5-year-old theme on a fast growing site, but they've never, they've just been building up technical debt and they're like 17 theme updates old and it's a 1.0 built Shopify theme, sometimes we have to suggest also, listen, let's just port your site, rebuild it completely on a brand new version of, say, Dawn or Impulse or one of the faster themes. Normally Dawn, which is just, that's a whole conversation, but Dawn's just ground zero for all new features, right? Shopify launches all of their newest features on Dawn. It's a very much friendlier from a development perspective for our team to work on. And we find time and time again that when we can rebuild on Dawn, and add all the features, and the client shouldn't even, when we finish a project, if somebody wasn't on the team, wasn't privy, or a user obviously didn't know about this rebuild, they shouldn't even notice anything happened. The site's just faster. All of the layouts, designs, functionality will be the exact same. The site will just be tremendously faster and smoother. And it's not just how quick a page loads, it's also how smooth is the interaction of the slide, or how smoothly does the accordion drop down when you click on descriptions, how smoothly do the images swipe when you are going through images, how fast do the videos parse out and load perfectly in high quality. It's not just a page loading, it's the broad sense of the user experience that's impacted by latency.
No, that makes total sense. So it's just a recap and kind of break these down and see these elements. So first off, look at where your app bloat is occurring. Remove that. Next after that, go look at the theme that you're using. See basically if that is what's hindering kind of the page load. And then I imagine there's probably these small tactical things that then get added on of, okay, we're going to cache images. We're going to do something like that as well to increase that. Or is there other things in there that you would like? What's your checklist look like?
So much that we can't cover in 13 minutes. We have a hard stop. But I want to say it's not so much about the theme. Most of the themes, particularly the ones that most people should be using these days, everybody in my opinion should be using the built for 2.0 themes. They all have to pass a pretty stringent standard, a baseline for performance that the team at Shopify beautifully integrated. So all of the themes have kind of a base level of performance. Some are better than others for sure. It's not necessarily the theme. It's the fact that us rebuilding on a new theme is going to allow us to just build a fresh foundation, right? There's just so much technical debt built into the theme that they currently have. And very often they'll be on version 1.2.6 and version 11.2 is the latest, right? So it's just they've been all of the bug fixes, all of the updates and features and particularly bug fixes and user functionality improvements that have been made on that constantly improving theme are not live on their site. So they're missing out on all of that, plus accruing all of this technical debt on their theme. So we try to honestly, those are more expensive projects, so you'd assume that we try and push for rebuilds as much as possible. We avoid them as best as we can. I only suggest a full rebuild to a client when it's absolutely necessary. And even still, I'll offer a spot optimization as a Band-Aid because they're more expensive. They take way longer. They pull way more resources from our team. Web perform. I can't stress this enough. Anybody who, this is just a red flag warning. If you do not go to Fiverr or Upwork, first off, ever for Shopify site speed optimization, every single person, let me make this very clear. This is a good clip here. Every single person that you see on Fiverr and Upwork that says, we will optimize your Shopify site speed in a day or two for a couple $100 or $1,000 is scamming you. 100%. Definitively. You are being scammed. It is impossible to optimize a Shopify site properly within a day or two. And then if another red flag, if they ever say, let's focus on your page speed insights performance score, see how it's at 40, we can get it to 90 plus, 80 plus even mobile. You're being scammed. Those tests, the first thing I do with a client, I've refused to work with clients in the past multiple times when they're fixated on that performance score on page speed insights, and they say, we really want to get it to 80. And I say, listen, that's impossible because that test it's like a Mensa genius test being given to kids that just have like a learning disability, and I mean that like as respectfully as possible. It's Shopify operates within this walled garden of third party apps that we're not allowed to touch. Right, all of the apps like in. I don't want to mention any very slow A/B testing tools and and heat map like a I don't want to say heat map. Heat map's the best heat map app by the way. Shout out heat map if you want to use have customer tracking. They're the best and the lightest, fastest. Shout out Dylan Ander. But some of these apps are very slow and we can't touch them, right? Compared to like a traditional HTML page where almost everything can be edited and optimized. That's what the site speed score is built on, where you can get close to or at 100. Shopify is not the same. So we're running a test with a massive disadvantage, and your score will never be high on mobile. And if anybody promises you and focuses on that score and says, we're going to get your score up to this number and that's the focus, and they don't talk about all the immense amount of technical work they're going to do to fix the site, you're being scammed. Run away. Run away. If it sounds too good to be true in web performance, particularly on Shopify, it is. This is deeply technical, tedious, monotonous, long-term work that takes a long time and a very, very skilled hand. And trust me, like if it was easy to hire Shopify web performance engineers, find them and hire them and train them, even train them, I would already have 100 devs on my team and we'd be at 10x scale. It's the hardest challenge for me internally.
So it's not a commodity. It's something that is like, it's not an abundant resource.
It's a very specific skill. And very few people in the dev space focus on it. And even less people do the work properly. And these scams persist so much because it's really hard to do it properly. And it takes a lot of time. And it's just a lot easier for someone to be like, listen, I'm just going to open up a landing page building team or a site, or we're just going to do conversion rate optimization and not have to care about performance because it's not part of what we offer. And this is just way harder and we can make good money, which I respect totally. But they left a huge gap for me to come up and be the best at what we do, which I think we are.
Totally. It also affects all of the channels that you're using. I think that's the other component. Like, yeah, you can spin up go use a landing page builder, but that only affects maybe your paid ad strategy and whatever traffic you're sending there. In contrast, like if you're doing Klaviyo.
You know what I mean? Like you optimize your CRO, you work with a CRO agency, you nail your paid ads, you bring in, you're paying good money for an amazing agency to compel people to click off of the ad platform they're on, or whatever social media platform they're on, to click on your ad, and then you have it sent to a beautifully conversion rate optimized site that you paid loads of money, and you pay the CRO team maybe to stay on and continually optimize, and you're so focused on that, but then it all falls apart at the end for anybody on a poor connection if your site's not optimized for speed. It's the final piece of the puzzle that people aren't focusing on, and that I'm screaming from the mountaintops of like, this is it. It's like getting the shaky legs at the end of a marathon, right? You trained so hard and you've got everything done, and at the very end, the last bit of preparation wasn't there and you fall apart. It's like the site, you need to feed them across every connection speed to a usable site that they can browse on. If they're on a fast connection, it'll be fine. And that's where your revenue is going to come from mostly. If they're on a 15, 10, 5 megabit per second download speed, even 20 megabits for a lot of my clients, the site's going to be choppy. It's not going to be a good user experience. They're going to have trouble browsing through the site. It's not going to be the same. And they're going to be far less inclined to purchase. It's just logic. We don't even need data for that, but there is a lot of data, like the report I talked about and many others.
Totally makes sense. Talk to me about AOV increases from this. So you'd make these changes. What do you see with clients from like these optimizations? What happens to their basket size?
Yeah, I mean it traditionally goes up again, right? I'm kind of like I almost don't like having the word agency and the nice agency, because I really do try and be coming from the other side of having worked with many agencies, and they promise and they fight and scramble for all the attribution. I'm not like that, and I never will be. I'll always say like, listen, just let's just point out the logic of it. And so like it just makes sense. And we can point to it once the site's live and we show like, listen, we don't know how much of this was attributed to us, but this is how much it went up. Fantastic. Happy you guys are happy. But more often than not, the client's just happy because they browse the site and they see that it's just way smoother and faster. And nobody who cares about their company wants to have a shitty user experience for anybody viewing their site, right? They want everybody to go and to have the best possible user experience, regardless of what your connection speed is. So in relation to average order value and increased even lifetime value, it's the same logic of, you think about it, you're providing them a far smoother, better experience. If they're having trouble clicking on variants and things aren't loading quickly, and they go to add to cart and we start getting like a preloading spin wheel, or they go back to another page to try and go into collections and see what similar products that you have, or you go click on product recommendations and it's half loading and it's barely dropping down, it's a poor user experience. They're going to be less inclined to interact with those assets that are there to increase your average order value. So having all of the AOV increasing assets loading exponentially faster than they were before, particularly on a poor connection, just like 1 + 2 = 3, right? Like it's just logical that letting them interact with those in a much smoother, faster way is going to incentivize them to interact with them. Like, wow.
No,
Shocking.
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Two questions before we we bounce. So first, is there a stack that is like the optimum stack that you're seeing use? So you site optimize your page. Like what are the the 10 apps that are the fastest, that are the best, that are going to get you the most value? You mentioned some already. You mentioned heat map is great. You've mentioned some of these other ones.
Really, like we're building a whole, follow me on Twitter. I think I go by Lukas. We can add that into the show notes too. But we're going to create a whole a big document on this of the fastest apps in pretty much every category. The big killers are the kind of like heat map tracking, right? The customer journey tracking tools, A/B testing, and page builders. Reviews as well can be pretty bad. So rapid reviews, William Belk built an amazing, lightweight, by far the fastest review client. Reviews are tricky because sometimes people utilize all of the 50 different add-ons that Akendo and Yotpo added, but like those if you're just using a review app for basic reviews and a couple additional features, and he's constantly building out more features, rapid reviews is an absolute killer when it comes to fast performance is one of his main focuses from the very beginning. So rapid reviews for reviews. Shoplift for A/B testing is untouched. They're light years beyond all of the other tools, and I don't want to even name the other ones because I just don't like, belittling other companies that are working hard to try and build a good product, but Shoplift is light years ahead of them.
I love that name. It's so good.
Yeah. If you want an intro to them, I can send.
Happy to talk to anybody in this space, as or
even anybody listening. I'll port you in directly with their the top of the onboarding team and get you an even better kind of white glove onboarding experience. So Shoplift is the best. I have a really good relationship with them, and it's not like I'm agnostic to any of these tools. If somebody came along and built a 3 times faster loading A/B test than Shoplift, they would be the ones that I refer to now. Shoplift is the best for A/B testing, and heat map, perfectly named, is the best heat map. They crush the other
Still
two.
shocked they got that .com. It's crazy. I know the person that did the purchase for it, and it's it's wild that they got that broker.
Dylan or Chase what they paid for it, but I'm sure it wasn't cheap. But
no, totally.
Very focused on performance, and that's a very robust tool that takes a lot from a script loading perspective to and just like it's a very heavy app. And they've done really well with making it as light as they really can. And I know the team there, and they're very focused on continually improving that. And then for page building, instant.so, the best, lightning fast, built for 2.0, constantly releasing new features. They're absolute killers. Again, I can bring a referral to you guys as well for them, and get you set up with the top of their team as well if you DM me on Instagram or whatever. But I mean, also, I'm biased, of course, but I think that the top of any stack, if you're really focused on performance, is send in an audit request with me and let us take a look at your site and give you an honest prescription of where it's at and where we think it could be. I really truly believe that the foundation of all of this is get everything optimized. Just switching to apps and removing bloated apps is going to create a nice little impact. But if you go on web page test and run your homepage, collections page, and product page, which you should run all 3 of, and you see those numbers at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 plus seconds, none of what I just mentioned about switching over to these tools is going to make the systemic changes that you need to make. You need to get a full optimization from a trusted, ethical development team like the Nice Agency or the few others that compete against me in this space. Yeah, so we have a audit request. You can fill out on the site. I apologize for not having case studies and reviews. We've grown so quickly just from word of mouth, from the good work we've done and the content I've put out, that we're still a smaller team. We just can't handle the inflow if I made our site super sales focused. But you can ask around, and our rep is pretty strong, and I'm happy to show the work we've done in the past and show you personally what we can do for your site as well.
That's great, man. No, it's been so valuable. I mean, even just that tool stack, I think will be incredibly valuable to everybody who's listening. Because, again, you live, breathe, and eat this all day. So to have that resource, but cool.
8 days a week.
We'll include all your contacts in the show notes below. Is there anywhere else or best place to reach out to you?
Twitter, I go by Lukas of the K, IGOBYLUKAS, or go to theniceagency.co, fill out an audit request. We do a free audit from your sites. I'll give you an initial one just through email to say this is what we're looking at. If it looks good and you're intrigued, then send us the collab access. My team will go in and do another free, far more in-depth technical audit of what the actual issues are related to what I showed you in the first email, and we'll propose a timeline and budget. Say yes, say no. No difference to me, and we work together or we don't. But regardless, we'll make your site exceptionally fast in comparison to where it is.
Awesome. Thank you again, man. I appreciate it. And Stoke, keep me updated on all this stuff too. I always love what you get, like you see on the front line. So reach out.
Man.
Awesome, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.